Well, that was not fun this past weekend as Orange County struggled at home, the third home match in a row. So let's look back. A win in the opener, a draw in the second match, now a loss. We've seen all aspects of Orange County. What are we going to see next time around? Luckily, we get to wait a little bit for that, but we'll talk a little bit about the struggles, the frustrations, whatever else we have to talk about. Let's get this show started. Welcome to the Show of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to another episode of the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only show dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora. I'm going to take you through this journey as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. Helping me out for this episode, we've got Dylan. Dylan, how are you feeling after this past weekend's match that was crappy?
That's a good way of putting it. I think I had a better weekend than perhaps the players or than most, but that was a very frustrating watch for me.
It was very frustrating. It was frustrating for me as well. Luckily, I didn't cancel my plans for the evening with friends and family, so I watched it on a replay, knowing the results, and I'm sort of happy I didn't watch it live because that would have canceled stuff, and I had fun instead. Helping us out on this episode as well, we've got the bearded one, Larry. If you ever get lost, you just look at his shirt he's wearing. He's cracking up right now. What's so funny, Larry?
Well, instead of going to the game, you had fun. Your words, not mine.
Well, let me be honest. I wasn't going to be at the stadium regardless. So instead of watching a poor performance on ESPN Plus, I did something else, then watched the replay later.
You had fun.
I had fun. Yes.
So Saturday night was not fun. It was. Thank God it's only the third game of the season, because late in the season this might hurt a little bit more. But I'm not really concerned about it. We'll just move on.
We're going to talk about it. We're here to help those that are still frustrated, still struggling, still disappointed, still whatever it may be from the result. We got one other person that's helping us on this before. I don't want to make him wait too long backstage. That's DK. DK. I don't know. Do we now consider DK? He's one of the regulars on the show. He's not our written team that comes and fills in. I feel like DK is on this show almost weekly at this point, which is awesome. DK, how you doing?
Doing all right. You know, I mean, I might be one of the few on the podcast and fans that I'm not overly concerned about the results from Saturday. I mean, obviously, there's things to work on, and it was disappointing to see. But there's stuff that we can talk about that they did well, and most of that's in the first half.
So I'm gonna say this: over the past 7 days, the soccer teams that I call myself a fan or a supporter of, they had a combined score of 0-10, and that's just being lucky that Tottenham didn't even play this weekend, or it could have been a lot worse when it comes to that. So. For those that don't know, I don't know if y'all mentioned last week, I wasn't here because I was at an Open Cup match for Laguna United, and they struggled. They lost 0-7 to Ventura County FC. And then, of course, there's this Orange County match that was a 0-3 result. Let's talk about this really quick. I just want to get everyone's state of mind on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're like just over it already, and 10 being you're the most optimistic ever about this team, or you're stoked about this team after the result, just the result this weekend. Let's not even consider the other two matches. Where are you? 0 or 1 to 10 or whatever we're going to say. Dylan, give us your number and your brief reasoning on it. And I don't know what's going on because I can't hear you, Dylan. So Dylan's muted for some reason. So I'm going to go to you, Larry. You give us the answer.
What was the question?
No one ever listens to me. I've learned that. No, the question was based off of the result this past weekend, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the greatest, how are you feeling after the results with Orange County?
I feel like I'm an 8. It was a bad night. That's it. It was a bad night. One thing I have learned recently in the last couple of years, when I'm out on the baseball field umpiring and pitcher throws a pitch and the coach maybe doesn't quite, or the batter maybe doesn't quite like whether, the strike call, and he kind of makes a face and the body language is bad. And the coach just looks at him and says, hey, so what? And right now, in regards to this particular game and this particular performance, I'm looking at it and I'm going, so what? It's the third game of the season. We got 31 more to play. I'm not even remotely concerned. Yes, walking out with my little post-game video, heading out to the parking lot. It was short. It was sweet. And for those of you who didn't see it on the Instagram feed, it was, well, that sucked. And honestly, it did. It sucked. It wasn't a fun night. It wasn't a good game. The players know it. We know it. They happen. They happen to every single team. So I'm not worried. I'm going to go a solid 8.
DK, let's be honest. Larry's being a very optimistic person there with an 8 rating. I mean, based on the way you sounded when we introduced you, maybe you're more on Larry's side with that. But where do you stand after that match?
Yeah, I mean, after that match, I would say a 7. I think there was a lot of good things that we had in the first half. The second half, obviously, we got scored on early, and then the red card, and then everything fell apart. Without that red card, I think we definitely could have come back into that match. Would we have won it? Not sure, but I definitely think we could have come back. The biggest issue, that we can really think about and why it's a 7 and not an 8 for me is that the defense needs some work. The defense is weak right now. I mean, out of the 3 games, we've been scored on, 7 times? And that's not okay. So that's something that we really need to look at. The midfield is, our strongest point, but at the same time, I would say that teams have realized that. And if they shut down Scott and Hagart, which is what Monterey did, then they stop a lot of our strengths as far as, switching the play as much as we were able to in the previous 2 games. So I'm not totally lost on the defense, but obviously there needs some work. And I'd say I'm a little bit high since a lot of that was negative. I'm a little bit high just because we have a bye week. And I think there's times to address those issues and to build that chemistry in the back and to strengthen that. So that's my hope, at least.
Dylan, where do you stand on all this? Larry and DK are pretty high on the team. And I'm just saying in reference to the match. I'm not saying in reference to what the future, what we think. I'm just saying based off of what we saw for the match, where are you rating it? Your emotions, your feeling, your mental state. Dylan, where are you?
Hopefully it's working, but I think I'm down at a... I'm not particularly happy with the result. I think it was poor. And I know a lot didn't go our way, but it didn't ever look like we were really up for it. And yeah, to echo what DK said, and which was the point I initially tried to make, we've conceded 7 matches in 3 goals. 7 goals in 3 matches. That's how this week is going for all of us, I think. And that's not what playoff teams do. So, yeah, I get we had a bunch of starters missing, but part of being a professional, I think, is a next man up attitude. And, if you are playing in Kevin Partita's spot or, Cameron Dunbar's spot while the entire world drives past my window, you have to be ready for when you get your chance. And it didn't look like we were ready, and it didn't look like we had a plan B. And, wow, this is incredible. maybe
We're-
we could
we're-
come up with a plan B. This is such a disaster of a show. It's a disaster of a week for Orange County. Let me be the first to say I just can't wait for another match.
Well, we didn't know Dylan was going to be posting up like at a speedway or something like that tonight. So Dylan, hopefully,
It's news
we
to
had
me.
we had the gentleman from Pittsburgh that was at like a midnight high school hockey match, and we heard the hockey pucks and the ice, skating going on, and now we're hearing the motor speedway from Dylan. And it was around the same time last year this happened, so maybe that's just
Yeah.
it's just sort of the luck of it all.
I miss Cameron Millage a lot and his random noises and his toothbrush on the show. So here we are. But yeah, that was a bad result. It was a bad performance. So a deserved result, and pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Thankfully, minus Ryan Dogman receiving a deserved red card, we seem to escape without any major missing pieces for next time.
Let's talk briefly about.
Hold on that. Did we escape without having any missing pieces for next time? Did you see Kyle Scott go down?
Maybe I've just jettisoned this whole weekend out of my brain after being rather annoyed watching it.
Yeah, no,
something that we don't, Larry.
Well, there was one point during the second half, probably, I don't know, around the 61st minute. Kyle was chasing a player down, and he pulled up with a hammy. He stayed on. He stayed in for the rest of the match. But with hammies, sometimes that's one of those next day things. You're out for 3 weeks. So did we escape? I don't know. Let's hope not.
To be determined.
Yes, to be determined.
To be determined on that. Really quick on the Ryan Dogman thing, since Dylan brought it up. Can we, Larry, you probably were the closest to the action with that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And DK, I would assume you were there as well. There was no maliciousness in that from Dogman, right? It's a legit mistake. Just it happened to be the cleat is up at the face level, so obviously, and comes in contact with the face, so you have to give a red card. But no one saw anything that seemed malicious in Ryan's foot to the face.
Maybe not malicious, but like extremely reckless and dumb. And okay. I still wouldn't be surprised if it's a match ban just because of the nature of it. It might not be malicious, but I don't think multi-match bans are always determined by whether it was on purpose or not. It's kind of generally determined on how reckless it was. And he kicked the guy in the face. So,
No, I get you on that. And I actually just sort of wanted to talk and figure out everyone's thoughts. I could see it going either way, and I could probably be okay with it going either way. One thing that I think the league will look at in these types of instances, right, is the player's history or, their conduct on the pitch. And I think all of us can agree Ryan Dogman is probably one of the better conducted players on the pitch, where he's not, creating havoc or not causing drama for the league or making them have to worry about the, disciplinary stuff with him as much. But obviously, yes, a kick to the face is a kick to the face. It's a dangerous play. It's something that probably can warrant a 3-match suspension for that straight red card. But I could see it going either way. Larry, you had your hand raised up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you said it's not a concern with, with the league and disciplinary actions. Didn't Ryan get a straight red last year?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not bad mouthing Dogman. Of course, I'm not bad mouthing Dogman. And last year's, I'm just messing with you on this one. Last year's straight red was a legit straight red, but it was just tripping a guy who was in front of him who had a clear goal scoring opportunity. He just ran into him. It was by the rule book, and I'm a sports official, so I follow the rule book. It should have been a straight red, but this one, it seemed a little dangerous.
Yeah, and that's straight red in that instance. That's a gamesmanship straight red. That's a card that someone's getting in that situation type of thing. Again, when I'm talking about disciplinary history, I'm talking about someone that is known to start fights or throw blows or do cheap headbutts or cheap elbows to players while they're in the air. That's where I come into the play of, if someone has that history, they're almost certain to get the 3 card suspension or the 3-match suspension from it. When you don't have that type of history, it can go either way. Now, I'm going to tell you, like I said, I'm okay. I'm not going to be okay if it goes to the 3-match suspension. Obviously, as an Orange County fan, I'm a little hurt from that, but I'm okay with it as far as the disciplinary action, whichever way it goes. And I don't think we've heard yet how that's going to go. But that was my thought on that. Dylan, thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny that we get to have this conversation because 3.5 weeks ago, Millwall's Liam Roberts kicked Jean-Philippe Mateta in the head. And this debate was had pretty much for us already. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, the consensus was you have a duty of care to your fellow professional. You know better at this level than to lead with your foot at head height. And he knew that it was a deserved red, and thankfully he didn't actually injure anybody or scalp anybody. He's going to get a few games, and he deserves to get a few games, and it doesn't really matter what his history is for this. If this is a regular occurrence from a player, which it's not, like, then we have a conversation about, is this player like fit to be a professional? But look, mistakes happen. He made a very bad judgment decision. Yeah, unfortunately for Orange County, unfortunately for Ryan Dogman, he deserves a few games for this one. Fortunately for Ryan Dogman, fortunately for, I forgot who he kicked in the face. This could have gone a lot worse. This isn't a Harry Forster drag your boot over some guy's head while he's on the ground situation. This is like, this could have been really bad, and glad it wasn't.
And just to put it out there, I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of a boot to the face. I get it. It happened. It's a dangerous play. It's a reckless play. I'm just wanting to make sure people don't see that there was any intent or intentional aspects behind it, which I don't think any of us think. But when you read through social medias and you talk to people or hear what people have to say, there may be different interpretations of this. And we've all talked with Ryan Dogman in the past. We know what kind of guy he is, and we've seen him for the past few seasons here in Orange County, a good ambassador of the sport here in Orange County. Let's do this, because we were very high going into the season on the attacking philosophy of this team and what the roster makeup is for the attacking mentality. We saw that in the first match, a 4-2 victory over Oakland. The 2 goals probably could have gone without the 2 goals. They were both, one of them was a good one of them was a penalty. So that seemed where we should have been. That looked like Orange County's plan for the season, is coming in, let's just out attack you, let's score goals. Against in the second match against Lexington, still got some offensive production, but the defense, we had to fight back. Defense conceded some goals, which we all knew that was going to be a thing. This match, literally nothing looked like there was really much going on offensively for Orange County. And I just wanted to ask you guys, because we look at that first match and then we look at the second 2 matches. Cameron Dunbar is missing. That first match, he was amazing. I think we all were praising him after that first match. He's now been missing for 2 straight matches. Is that the simple answer to the struggles here for Orange County, that Dunbar is not there?
Well, not only is Dunbar not there, we've only seen Tristan Traeger for 12 minutes. We've only seen Liam McKinnon for 4 minutes. These are major cogs to what this team. We've barely seen. Have we even seen Bryce Jamison yet?
But let me jump in really quick, Larry. I'll let you finish your thought. Yeah. But I'm going back to that first match, right? Cameron Dunbar was amazing. Mm-hmm. He was sort of the orchestrator of a 4-2 victory for Orange County in that match. And he's missing the next 2 matches. So again, I get we have other pieces, but we didn't have those pieces that first match, and we still had a really good offensive match there. So that's just where my mind was thinking, is Cameron Dunbar that key piece to this puzzle in the offense, or am I over exaggerating from just one match? Go for it, Larry. I know what you were. Keep going with what you were saying, though.
That's okay. I can change gears on that a little bit. Cameron's a special player, and he showed in that first game that I think he's starting to believe a little bit more that he is a special player, and he can abuse people when he gets that ball out on the wing. And yeah, missing that is a big deal because look, as much as I might love watching, Ryan Dogman come up there and, make a pass over to Grayson Duty for a header, it's a beautiful thing. Um, I want to see Cameron handling the ball. I want Cameron with the ball at his feet, making those crosses into Zubac, who, jumps. Dude could leap out of a gym if he wanted to. So is he important? Absolutely, he's important. But the missing pieces are going to be what puts this team on the path that I think we all believe it's going to go on this season, which is going to be a deep playoff run. But we need those pieces fully healthy and playing up to their full potential.
All right. Dylan, do you have any thoughts on this topic? Or, hey, what do you want to talk about? You don't have to listen to what I say.
I rarely do, to be honest. I think, yes, we're missing Cameron Dunbar. We mentioned earlier, if you take Kyle Scott and Chris Haggart out of the equation, what's left? Typically, the answer is Cameron Dunbar, and he will just wreak havoc, essentially. This is a situation in which, hey, we have a right winger that's good on this team, Bryce Jamieson. Not sure why he's not playing. There's probably a reason he's not playing. It's not like he's not in the best 18 players on this team. But we haven't had that chance yet. Benjamin Barzolo is seemingly knocking on the door and maybe gets a chance this coming week with how things are going. But yeah, I mentioned earlier, it's a next man up kind of thing, and I've seen it mentioned a handful of times kind of through the preseason and even on the show. What's going on with the squad depth here? Because we've already got some injury woes pretty early on. Now we're going to have a big piece missing via suspension for who knows how long. We'll find out tomorrow. But it's already starting to create bigger problems, and now we have to ask questions about, well, what do we do 20 matches into the year when this happens? Who steps up then? And ideally, are they ready?
I'll go to you, DK, on this. So you feel free to talk about the Cameron Dunbar question, but I also want to ask you, because Dylan brought up the next man up mentality, especially with the whole with Ryan Dogman potentially out for a couple matches or a few matches here. Are there any changes you need to see from Orange County, or with the way they've been playing, is there a simple slot in someone different for Dogman? I believe Dogman's been playing higher up the pitch with Pedro staying back more on defense, but I could be wrong on my analysis of that. But I know Pedro hasn't been playing full matches as well. Go for it. Your thoughts, and feel free to share. Talk about anything else that's on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense, like when we're talking about our bye week, right, and they're going to have some extra training before our next match, you really got to figure out the chemistry back there on the defense, because, the 2 goals from Lexington that happened are defensive mistakes, and 2 goals that Colorado got were defensive mistakes of letting Elijah Paul just be completely open on the side for, an easy pass and an easy goal for him. So, whether that comes down to the chemistry of the defense, because I do think that we have strong people back there. I think that we've seen great performances, at least in moments, from, Brewitt, from Miles, from Duty, from Nico Benalcazar as well. They've had good moments, and that's why maybe I'm thinking it's the chemistry. I mean, it's a full new back line. So maybe they need some time to adjust, figure each other out, and be able to, hold the shape in a correct way. As, Cameron just mentioned, these things do take time. And that's why I am excited that we have a bye week. This game wasn't a game that I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to freak out, right? That we need to worry that this is like code red kind of a thing. It's an unfortunate game. And I think it's a game that, we could have maybe lost 2-1 versus 3-0 if the red card didn't happen. Or maybe it would have been a 1-1, something like that. But I think the defense is where you need to focus on, especially now that we don't have Partita there to help in that number 6 role. You need to figure out somebody to really take over. I would say even more so than missing Dogman. because again, Dogman has been playing up, and you have Scylla that can come in. Our offense and our midfield looks fairly strong, and we have players to fill that in. It's our defensive depth that worries me. And I like Pedro. I think Pedro is a fantastic player, but he makes little mistakes out of inexperience. And it seemed like this last game we mainly played like a back three, and going up against a more offensive team like Monterey, I think that's not maybe the best decision, but I'm not the coach, so.
And I had this other thought in mind. And I love it because you guys are, as I have these thoughts coming, you guys are actually giving some transition to this, because you mentioned Kevin Partita missing, which I know I talked about Cameron Dunbar in that first match. Kevin Partita, we all know he's a big part of Orange County's midfield. He's one of the big pieces, and when him and Kyle Scott are in, it's one of the best, if not the best, midfield duos in the USL Championship. With him out, we've seen Nico move up to the more defensive midfielder role instead of where he started in that first match, which was partnered with Tom Brewitt in the defensive line. Again, I'm looking at this, right? The tactical changes because of injuries. Is it better, or would it be better for Coach Danny Stone to leave Nico in the back line next to Tom Brewitt and have Ashton as one of the 18 off the bench? Is there a benefit to that? Because again, that first match, we looked pretty solid. Yes, we gave up one goal in play. The other one was on a PK. And since then, with Nico moved into the midfield, we've struggled. Is there any thought process on that? I'll go to you first, Larry, where maybe Coach Danny Stone needs to look at, hey, Nico needs to be on the defense, not in the midfield, because that's where we need the most from him right now.
It makes sense. I'm with you. I understand where you're going, but then my question is, who goes into the 6 if we don't have Partita? I can't think of somebody. It's not going to be Scylla, because that's not what he does. So who's it going to be that slots in there?
Can't you drop Kyle a little bit deeper? Is Kyle capable of playing in that role? I see. Look, this is the fun part of the show, and if you don't watch the show, the streaming video of it, I saw Dylan shaking his head no. I see DK shaking his head yes. So I love this. I'm ready for this. Who wants to go first? Okay, Larry, finish your thought, and then I want to hear why Dylan thinks no and why DK thinks yes.
I think that yes, Kyle could drop deeper. He could even start in the 6. And then Scylla moves up and plays there. I think that's absolutely reasonable. Is it going to be the strongest possibility because of how outstanding Kyle Scott is coming up and bringing the ball, being that catalyst in the middle, being that point guard as it would be? Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it's an idea. Of course, if I'm Danny Stone, I'm sure as hell not listening to me. So,
well, we know Matt Elder listening live. He's going to vote for Pedro on this. Let me go to this. We're going to do a good old fashioned high school debate. On one corner, we've got Dylan saying no, Kyle Scott can't play any deeper, and on the other side, we have DK saying yes, he can. I'm not trying to say Kyle Scott that his best position is the 6, but is it make more sense to put Kyle there and Nico in the back line, or move Nico up and then figure out someone in the back line like an Ashton Miles? I'm going to give it to the person that's been on the podcast longest, Dylan. You get first crack at this. Why is it a bad idea to put Kyle Scott in the 6 instead of Nico?
Should I be the timekeeper?
Wait, Larry wants to say one thing.
Okay. Should I be the timekeeper? Because that's how debates actually work. You have 60 seconds to answer the question, Dylan. Go.
Great. All right. Thank you. How effective is he playing further back? Less effective. Ultimately, his passes have to be longer passes, which become riskier passes, which give the opposition more time to intercept said passes. And yeah, he can ping a ball and he can spray a ball over the field, but it's not working already. He's pretty far back. It's not going to work if we drop him even further. This worked well when Aiden Quinn was dropping in line with the center backs to spray a ball out wide, allowing him to get back out into the midfield and then move the ball further forward. Throwing Kyle Scott into a 6 is just, we're not going to do that, because who is currently on the wing that's going to be able to hold the ball up and let Kyle Scott get back forward? And does he have that ability to do that for 90 minutes week on week until Kevin Partita's back. And then the other side of this one is Kyle Scott loves getting bookings. So, not a great place.
Your
Okay.
time is up. Keith.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Wait, really quick. I forgot. I forgot to set this up, so I apologize. This was supposed to be like an epic rap battle debate, not just speaking. You guys were supposed to get
So
some
you asked
rapping
the
going on.
two whitest guys that went to school
Yeah,
for
right.
literature for this.
Well, DK, it's your turn. Why is it better to put Kyle Scott in the 6 instead of Nico? Why should Nico stay in the defensive line in these situations?
One, let's harper on that word better, because that was not how this was framed when I nodded.
Okay, it doesn't have to be better.
You said, could he be in that spot? And I nodded
Okay.
yes. Because I
Okay,
do
go with it that way then.
Kyle can make that spot and still do what he does in the midfield right now, and then have Nico and Brewitt as the center backs, and maybe bring Ashton Miles in, or maybe have Ashton play on the left, left back type of a deal, because I do think that Pedro has kind of made mistakes that have led to goals in the past couple of matches. I like Pedro. I think just his inexperience. Is he a starter for the rest of the season is my question. And so, yeah, I think Kyle could come back. I think he can still distribute from where he is. And I think by bringing, Scott, back into that 6, then you do open up another spot in the midfield for Silla to come in. And I think Silla has actually looked pretty solid every time that he's come on, to the point where I think maybe at this, we should see him get a start, especially with our lack of depth right now. Maybe, put him in, maybe have Molina, who, we can maybe talk about a little bit, who I haven't been super impressed with, even though he did have the best chance on goal in this last game. But overall performance, I haven't been super impressed with him. So maybe take Molina off, maybe put Silla in his spot. Like, there's a lot of adjustments that can be made. And again, that's why I'm happy that we have a bye week, because I hope that the team and Danny Stone can figure out what those adjustments need to be, because we can talk about injuries all day long. But we need to figure something out. Just like I said last season, we can't use it as an excuse every single game.
Does anybody know what Michael Orozco's up to? Like, is he still fit? Because he
Yeah,
can play
right.
as a 6. He did pretty well. Unfortunately, Danny Chrysostomo's most definitely spoken for. He's playing all the minutes in Tampa. So what could have been, perhaps.
Good for him. Hey, if Michael Orozco was fit, you could put him in the back, and then maybe Nico in the 6 works out, because then you still have some depth on the defense. Right now, when you move Nico up into the defensive midfielder, then you're having Ashton Miles, which, yes, Ashton Miles is great, but you're having a young Ashton Miles and a young Pedro Guimaraes in the back line. Yeah, I messed it up, Dylan. It's going to be something that happens all year. You already know this from me, so don't make the faces. But maybe it at least avoids or eliminates the having 2 young players in the back line, where youth is not always the biggest benefit, especially when you're playing multiple young players. DK.
Yeah, I mean, I know we briefly mentioned that Matt Elder threw in Pedro as the number 6. And I don't hate that idea either, because in reality, the best things that we've seen from Pedro so far in this season, in these last 3 games, has been more a midfielder than a defender. So, that's one of my biggest questions is he really the starting left back, or is he maybe a midfielder that can come in as a number 6, as a number 8, maybe even to help progress the ball forward? And maybe I don't know if he's a starter, but maybe he comes in to help alleviate some of the lack of depth that we have. So I think Pedro's a fantastic player. I think his inexperience on the back line, when we already have a back line that doesn't have that chemistry yet, worries me. Towards the end of the season, who knows? And as far as Matt also saying that we have been playing fine from out of the back, I actually do agree. Tom Brewitt has had some fantastic passes from the back up through the midfield that have resulted in some pretty amazing plays within the first 2 games. Obviously not really in this last game, but against Oakland and Lexington, I think we've been fine playing out of the back. So,
Hey, maybe the club can look into the fastest player ever to don an Orange County jersey, Albie Skendi. Maybe we can get him in there, and he can either play the 6 or the center back position for us. Who knows?
And with
Let's do
that,
this.
Dylan's head explodes.
Dylan loves Albie Skendi. That's like one of his all-time favorite players. I'm surprised Dylan doesn't have a Skendi jersey. Why don't you
Albie,
have
if you're
one,
out
Dylan?
there somewhere, we still love you, buddy. Cheers.
See, Larry tries to like make things nice and happy, and Dylan gives this face like, "Do we really?" So now it's all out there, Dylan. Just so you know, I for the people that don't watch the video, I'm going to explain what I'm seeing when I see your reactions to Larry's comments there.
It's fine. Please, you had a thought, Ray. We would, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I think we would like to hear it.
Is there anything else we want to talk about? This my thought was more of a question. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Not just this match, but just sort of where this team is now. Again, it's a little bit of a cluster mess. Luckily, there is a bye week. We can work on some stuff. Yeah, Dylan, I'm trying to keep this a PG show. I'm not trying to go into the having to mark it explicit, thus the word cluster mess. Is there any positive stuff that you saw from this last match? Just this last match heading into the bye week that you want to see the team take advantage of going forward? I'll go to you first, Dylan. I don't think there's anything because you look confused with that question, but go for it.
And I think it was that you asked if we had thoughts that we wanted to mention, and I did, but you asked for positives, and I don't. So, look, it's a chance to retool. It's a chance for some players to get back healthy, and it's a chance to figure out what Plan B looks like when Plan A isn't going so well.
Let me go to you, DK. You were at the match. Was there anything you saw at the match that you're like, okay, let's take that, let's build on that for the rest of the season? And you could be honest if you didn't see anything that comes to mind, or if you just can't think of it right now, be honest with it. It doesn't matter. I'm wondering if anyone saw anything.
Yeah, I mean, I like what Hagart does in the middle. I think he had probably one of the better performances from the evening. I really like Scylla. He's been coming in as a sub. I'd like to see him get a start. I think the first half was better, but we had more possession. We had better chances on goal. I've had debates with people about that, but we did have 2 chances on goal that could have easily resulted in us being ahead in the first half. One of them was an amazing save by the Monterey keeper, who made himself super large and stopped it with one hand. So definitely should have been buried. Probably could have been buried in any other situation, but that one. So it was when that red card happened that everything fell apart. I guess what I would like to see them do better is not be as reckless. And then 2, if we are, learn how to play a man down, because once we just got destroyed.
Larry, your thoughts?
Dylan, go ahead. I'll let you say something before I talk.
I had a random thought, because 2 weeks ago we talked about
No,
whether or
random
not
thoughts are at the end of the show, bro. What are you doing?
Thank you, Larry. 2 weeks ago we talked about whether or not the goal against Lexington should have stood, and it should have, and it did stand. And then last week we watched, Saturday night we watched Shuttler kind of get hit while jumping up for a ball, and I think we just talked briefly about goalkeepers getting the benefit of the doubt and things, and I was very surprised, and I think this exemplified kind of the entire weekend for Orange County, but Colin Shuttler is challenged for a ball in the air. That's actually not even true. I think Paul just runs into him, actually. Doesn't even try and really play the ball. And nothing really transpires from that one, and I was kind of surprised. Maybe hockey's ruined my brain, but I expected, a Tom Brewitt or an Ashton Miles or a Kyle Scott to run over there and maybe grab a fistful of shirt and ask him what he thinks he's doing and, maybe show a bit of fight. And we didn't get that, so that was a little bit weird. And yeah, maybe hockey has just ruined my brain, but I expected some sort of reaction from that. And when we didn't get that, I felt like, well, I know what the next 20 minutes is going to look like. And, well, I think it did go like that.
They did run over to the ref. As far as not running over to the player, it's probably
it's the right thing to do, but right. I also want to watch him grab 2 fistfuls of shirt and say what do you think you're doing? You don't get to go after him like that.
Maybe if we're not a man down, somebody does that. But since we're already a man down, it's like...
Once again, where's Michael Orozco when you need him? Because I have a feeling Michael Orozco would have no problems
Yeah, who knows? And hopefully Larry remembers what we were asking, because Dylan
Yes.
decided that he wanted to continue his hosting from last week and just take over the show. Go for it, Larry.
No, it's fine. Yes, there was absolutely a positive, and I can't believe that nobody else said this. 5 words, 6 words. Liam McKinnon debut. We got to see Liam McKinnon on the pitch. We've been waiting for this since he was signed. He didn't play in any of the preseason matches. He hasn't played in the first 2 games, and now he's on the pitch. He's in uniform and he's on the pitch. I believe that this guy is going to be a difference maker when he is out there and he's playing on that wing. I think that we're looking at a Milan-Olowski-esque type of player. Obviously taller, which isn't hard to do, but we're talking about a dynamic player who is now getting healthy and getting out on the pitch. And he is going to be incredibly important to this team moving forward. You get him on one side, you get Cameron over on the other side, and that's dangerous. So
I was gonna say
that's my positive. That's my take. Whatever, man. Syllables, Carlos. Syllables.
Carlos jumps in there, and I just wanted to call out because I saw the pain in the caresser of words, Dylan's face, when you said 6 words and then said that. I could see Dylan look like he was having a stroke.
It just,
are you okay, Dylan?
I'm not even good at counting, and I was very aware that was in fact.
I could have said something about Dylan having a stroke, but we're trying to keep PG, so never mind.
7 syllables, excuse me. See, I told you I'm good at counting.
DK, since when is a stroke not PG? What is wrong? What is so un-PG about a stroke? No joking about strokes. I apologize. I'm not trying to joke about strokes.
Do y'all see what we have to put up with? Ray is why we can't have nice things.
All right, and let's move on.
Anyway, Liam McKinnon making his debut. That is one massive positive. In my opinion, it might be the only one from Saturday night, but that is a huge positive.
I actually agree with you, Larry. That's a very positive aspect on this. I also do agree with DK. I think Silla has shown that he needs more minutes on the pitch and more potentially a start. He's looked very dynamic out there. I feel like he's one of the few ones out there that has looked like he actually can break down the defense on his own. Another player that was similar to that we haven't seen in a couple matches is Cameron Dunbar. So that's something we are missing with the lineup that we've seen. So maybe Silla can spark some of that on there. Okay, so like I said, it's a bye week. We don't have a match to preview. We don't have anything to do that. So we're going to actually start wrapping things up here a little bit sooner than normal, give you back a little bit of time after this cluster mess that this episode has been so far. Let's try and wrap things up with a positive here. So we're going to go into first, we're going to do both what did we learn and random thoughts. We'll go with random thoughts first. I'm going to go to you, Dylan. You already did your random thought, but you want to do a different one as well.
It wasn't even a random thought. I think I should just maybe take the moment while it's somewhat still topical and say, like, hey, signs of strokes. Sudden numbness, weakness on one side of the body. I'm not embodying that right now. Confusion, trouble speaking, or difficulty understanding speech. I only ever struggle to understand you, Ray, so unfortunately I'm 0 for 2 here. Seeing in one or both of my eyes, despite the glasses, I can still see. Walking, dizziness, loss of balance. Standing on one leg like it's yoga class, so I think we're good. Severe headache, only when I listen to you. So, hey, if any of those signs...
He was pointing at you, Larry. He was pointing at you, Larry.
Yeah. So there's my random thought. Know the signs of stroke, and, I think, that's it. There you go.
To the fans out there listening tonight, this has been a new segment that will be brought to you by MediQuip, and it's called Medical Talk with Dylan.
Yeah, I'm definitely a qualified doctor, so, that's great. MediQuip.
Dr. Dylan.
Where you at?
DK, do you have any random thoughts?
I guess not super random and, going over into self-promotion here a little bit, but everybody should go read the written content, not just mine, but our preseason ones. We have Spanish post-game reviews. We also have player profiles that are being put out for the podcast, and we would love for you guys to read, like, comment, share, all that fun stuff, as well as with this video. So,
and DK, where can they read that?
they can read it on the Orange and Black Soccercast website,
which is ocscpodcast.com for simple there.
There you go.
You can type
Yeah,
in.
I was
There's
like-
3 ways to do it. There's 3 ways to do it. If you want to type out a long message, orangeandblacksoccercast.com, all words, no symbols. If you want it a little bit shorter, ocscpodcast.com. If you really don't like to type, you can just type in ocscpod.com and it'll all get you to the same place where you can read the written content and also see some wonderful pictures and bios of some of us. Not all of us, but some of us. Larry, random thought from you.
Random thought. If from the stands or 30 feet behind home plate was the best place to call balls and strikes, that's where we would do it from.
This is a soccer show.
Doesn't matter. It's random. That is random. And as for things that I learned, I didn't really learn.
We're not at what we learned yet, Larry. We're not there yet.
You said both. Did he not
Go
say
ahead.
both? Did he not say both?
Go ahead.
I
We can
learned
tell
that-
Larry doesn't listen to me.
Huh? I learned
Go
that
ahead.
sending stuff through something called Signal is a bad thing.
We learned that this episode?
I'm not engaging with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, as a regular Signal user, I was not on that text chain. Just
Here we go. My random thought, and I am going to get some hate from Dylan. I know this, right? My
Positive.
son made his debut with his new club team, Laguna United FC, this past weekend, and he and his other new teammate Knox, they replicated or they tried to replicate the goal from Grayson Duty on the assist. I believe it was from Ryan Dogman, if I'm not correct. So my son got it, crossed it into the box, and Knox headed it in for the opening goal of the season. Unfortunately, we ended up losing the match 1-2, but props on his debut, getting an assist from an amazing cross for a header. This is U13, and they're pulling this off. So I'm excited about what's going to happen in the future with that. But yeah, there's my random thought. Let's get to what did we learn this episode. We're not going to give Larry a chance because he gave us another thing he learned, even though it wasn't in the episode. But Dylan, did you learn anything this episode?
I did. I just learned that you don't know that you give the leading or winning score first. So in this case, they lost 2-1, even if you are referring to, of course, your son's team, which did not win.
Hey,
I
I'm
didn't know that.
going with what my score was first, and then the other teams. I don't care if it's win or loss. I don't care how you do it, Dylan. DK, what did you learn?
I learned, which, I guess wasn't a super surprise, but that our fan base is, very mixed as far as what this last result meant. We have quite a handful of people who, are saying, don't freak out yet. It's the third game of the season. They have time to grow. And you have others who are like, this is a, crap team. And we, have a lot of things that we need to work on. And I think it's somewhere in the middle there. There's definitely some things that we need to work on. And it's not the end of the world that we lost in the third game of the season. So.
What did I learn this episode? I learned that you all missed me last week because you needed me to control this show and make it fun again. So yes,
Control
we made
the show. Oh, is that what you do?
I make the
I hate to break
podcast
it
fun
to you.
again.
Andy controls the show. Okay.
No, I'm not taking anything away from producer Andy, but I make
we
this
serve
podcast
at the pleasure
fun.
of producer Andy.
So for you, I make this podcast fun again. With that said, this is going to wrap up our episode of this show. I hope y'all had fun with us. If not, we had fun doing this, I think, maybe, or not. Make sure, again, to like, subscribe, share our social media posts anywhere that you follow us on social media. If you don't follow us yet, just go on to any social media that you can think of. We're probably even on Friendster. I'll have to ask producer Andy if we're on Friendster as well. But like, follow, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Also visit us on our website, like DK said, to read our written content. Listen to our podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. For Dylan, for DK, for Larry, for Andy, who cracked up about Friendster in the background. You didn't get to hear it, but we all heard it. This has been the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, and we are out.